What is reality? Reality is what we believe to be true about the nature of our surroundings. But how do we come to decide that true nature? Do we conceive it completely on our own? Or do other devices gently sway our thoughts onto a pre-decided path? This is the hard question we must all ask ourselves as free humans on this planet. Whose skull rules reality?
Reality.
Brief is given on the show. We've had people who've been on secret bases on Mars. We have people who've been abducted by secret government black projects.
I was just informed that.
No sound.
I fixed it though, guys. That's my bad. Look, I'm gonna tell you a little story, right? It's an interesting story. It's about starting the computer up and being like, okay, I need to restart this so I can get my RAM back, and then all of a sudden Windows is like, we want to update, okay? And then every time that happens, you gotta battle software for an hour. So, excuse me, guys. Once again, this is Wednesday Night Reality Brief. I'm Don, this is Dan, and what is up, guys?
We're here to blow your minds.
We love starting for nobody and then restarting again. We were just practicing for our guest, Matt Tracy. Matt, what is up tonight, man? Thanks for coming on the program.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, not a problem. So, oh, damn it, I put the wrong one on there. Look at that. Yeah, we got a good start tonight. Yeah.
So we may have some new listeners in our audience tonight, and to those of you who are new to the show, we are here to provide a platform for people to come forth and tell almost nigh unbelievable tales, some of them realistic, some of them that may throttle the imagination, but we do so to bring people here into a non-judgmental atmosphere where they can tell their tales of what's happened to them, no matter how far out they might be. We have folks who've been on the show who have spent years in secret bases on Mars, people who have been part of clandestine government operations in space, people who have had unimaginable things done to their minds by shadowy forces beyond our control, and not sure quite where I'm going with that, but strap in, guys, because tonight's gonna be a wild one.
Saying a lot of words, wasn't he, guys? So Matt,
I got the best words.
Now, for those of you who are frequent listeners of the program, you are pretty familiar with the secret space program trademark, and what have you. So now Matt has experienced some pretty heavy stuff involved with the German fleet, Nacht Waffen. Did I say that right, Penny, if you're listening? She always yells at me when I say
Nacht Waffen.
And, or Darkfleet, trademark, however you wanna call it. It's all generally the same thing.
To those of you who don't know, it is widely known in, the paranormal community that after World War II, there was a small contingent of Germans that made it off-planet and established secret bases on the moon, Mars, and beyond.
which is what we now have come to know as the Darkfleet trademark, Nacht Waffen.
Not
Or
a fun
German,
bunch of guys.
the German breakaway group.
The
So
Bund.
many different names for the same
The
peeps.
Bund.
So anyway, Matt,
What's up?
we did a nice long chat about a week ago, and so I think what I want you to do is just kind of start at the beginning. Like, when is the first time when you realize, hey, something's kind of amiss here?
Well, there were many points throughout my life when that occurred. I've been fighting this every step of the way. Um, it all came up as nightmares when I was little. Um, I didn't really accept that I had been abducted till about 6 years ago, and I didn't even accept that that I actually served in some of these programs till this year, this past May.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's got to be a tough thing to kind of wrap your mind around.
It is. I was my first thing was, am I crazy?
Yeah,
You know,
I bet that probably goes through everyone's head. I
you
mean,
know,
it's out there to an average person. You know what I mean? Like the stories that are told about it is it's to an average person is fucking just crazy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
yeah,
I could see how, like, if I was in that position, I would be like, yeah, I don't know, man.
yeah. But my story I started going out and asking for help, looking up people who have come out and started asking them questions, and it started lining up exactly with what I was remembering. So then I started thinking, maybe I'm not so crazy, and maybe that's actually not the good thing. I was actually hoping somebody would tell me I was crazy and I could
Right?
just let this all go away and not have to deal with
Take
it.
these pills and forget all about it. I'm sure somebody out
Right.
there would be perfectly willing to do that, though.
Uh,
If you take these pills and forget all about it, you're crazy.
yeah.
I would
If it
say
was
probably
actually
9 out of 10
true, I'd be
doctors.
all for it. If it was true, I'd be all for it. But apparently it's not true, so
Right.
going with the flow.
So tell me about this first abduction experience.
I don't remember what the first one was. I was very little. Um, I know it's been going on since before I was born, when I was in my mom's womb. That's just a gut feeling. But my earliest memories are of, I guess I can bring up one of them, is I remember watching TV in the living room. I was very little, had to have been 5 or 6. Um, with the way the layout of the furniture is in the living room, that had to have been about how old I was. Um, I remember getting up. I remember walking to the door, the front door in the living room. I remember reaching for the handle, but before I could reach the handle, the handle turned and the door opened, and right there is a gray. And as he's walking into my house, there's a step up, and so as he's stepping up, his right hand is moving. It's moving up, and it's out facing me. And as it's in the process of moving up, I'm lifting off the ground. Um, and I remember hanging there while he's now inside the house, just past the doorway. And then I black out. And I remember waking up in bed. And I remember thinking that had to have been a dream. But I'm wearing the same clothes I was wearing when I was out in the living room. I don't remember going to bed. I started thinking. And I usually change into my night clothes. And so I ran out into the living room, and the TV's still playing. I can't remember to this day what was playing on the TV, but the lights were the same lights I had on in what at the time I thought was a dream was on. And I remember thinking, I remember watching this, what was on the TV, but I can't remember what was on the TV.
So, can you describe to me this being that you're describing as a gray? Like what it looked like, height, shape, size, color,
Well,
eyes.
at about how old I was, it was the same height as me. At how old I was at the time when it happened. I remember looking down at him at first because he was at a step down outside. As he stepped up, I was still looking down at him because his hand was raising up and I was lifting off the ground.
So
Um,
what? So you're talking 3 foot?
roughly, yeah.
Okay. Slender, or
Very slender. His head was disproportionately large. The whole black eyes and everything. Tiny little mouth that didn't even look like it could hold a pea.
can you recollect how many fingers it had?
I'm not even sure if it had a thumb.
So we're thinking 3, 4 fingers.
Something like that. I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
That part is vague. I was more in shock of looking at his face. Um,
Did it feel like he was getting into your head at all? Like just by staring into you, like he could look at you and, you know, transmit
at
thoughts without speaking?
in that memory, I don't recall that. I've had experiences of that in other memories, but in that one in particular, I don't recall experiencing that. I just recall the blacking out after being raised up
Now,
off the ground.
do you remember at that time? Do you remember seeing if there was any other beings in the vicinity, humans maybe, or other ETs, or all is
No,
it just that one?
not in that particular memory. It was just that one that I remembered. I remember him walking through the door. I remember being raised up. I remember blacking out and waking up in bed. I remember running out front into the living room and everything. The lights, the TV was all exactly how I left it.
Very interesting. And no other memories from that have surfaced, like as far as what may have happened to you or anything like that.
The memories that have surfaced, I'm not sure because everything's kind of broken up.
Hmm.
I don't know what memories of what's going on after the me being taken, and how they correlate to when I'm taken. I don't have any streamlined memories of going from one to the other in the same memory. So
Okay. So let's move on a little further. So I'm assuming you're what, 5, 4? Oh,
about 5 or 6 in
5 or 6.
that particular memory.
Okay, so bring me to the next event.
Well, there are so many. As a child, I'm not even 100% sure if that was the first.
Right. Okay.
Like I
Well,
said,
bring me up to teenage years. Like, tell me about some things that's happened up until you were a teen.
well, all throughout my teen, I was getting nightmares of things that were going on that I know now was actually my training in the programs. But then I thought they were just nightmares. And then there was also throughout my entire childhood and teens, I would always get the same gray-looking beings. They would come into my room, and it felt like their eyes were like these bottomless chasms. It's like I was being sucked into their
Mm.
eyeballs. It's like there wasn't eyeballs there. It was just these bottomless chasms. I was being sucked in, and I've been told that that's kind of how it feels when they vampirically drain you,
Hmm.
and that's happened my entire life.
There's been a lot of abduction tapes and stuff like that, where regression tapes, where they talk about those eyes and how it's just unsettling. Something about it.
Yeah, it's that's where I get the feeling like they're right when they say the eyes are the windows into the soul.
Hmm.
I've physically experienced that.
So I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong here. When you were 9, the next major event.
Yeah, I was 9 when I started having blackouts. I go to sleep on Wednesday night, and I'd wake up Friday morning with no memory of Thursday. I'd freak out. I didn't, at first, I wasn't even noticing that it was Friday until I get to school. Um, and so it was like, I'd ask my teacher, what happened to Thursday? And she'd be confused, and then she'd shrug it off. It's like, what are you talking about? And I'd start getting scared. It's like, I have no memory of Thursday. But to them, I acted perfectly fine. I was there. I wasn't missing. I was acting perfectly normal. I even turned in my homework. I woke up on Friday morning with Friday morning's homework already ready to be turned in, with Thursday morning's homework already turned in. And yet I'd go to bed on Wednesday night with Thursday's homework in my bag.
So about how long did that continue with the missing Thursdays?
I don't know exactly how long it continued. It was quite a while. It was consecutively every week for several months. I don't know when it ended exactly, but it scared the hell out of me. I brought it up with my parents. At the time, they acted the same as the teacher, shrugging it off as if I'm just acting out for attention or something. But in my teens, because I never let up on it, this really did happen to me. My parents finally started believing me.
So what did they suspect it was?
They didn't know. They didn't even bring up suspicions. Um, and me, I was too much in denial back then. I didn't want to believe that I was an abductee or an SSP vet or anything of the like. I didn't want to believe any of that. I truly believed, that wasn't me. None of that happened to me. This is just nightmares.
And so it took years of digging to really get to the realization that, yeah, this is going on, right?
I didn't even dig. It was thrust in my face all at once, all abruptly, to the point where I went through a depression when I found out, when I finally accepted it.
Okay, so
So what, like, how old were you when you first, consciously heard the term Nacht Waffen or Darkfleet outside of your own experience, the experiences that you had being abducted? Like,
Well, I never knew of those words until Penny told me. When I started reaching out and asking questions, she told me my memories are synonymous with Nacht Waffen service. And I started asking, so what the hell is that?
so before we get into that, tell me about being taken on a ship and the tables and stuff.
Yeah, all throughout my childhood, from the time I was 9 years old on, I had these nightmares and it was always the same nightmare reoccurring. So that's why I think it was more of a memory, and not just happening repeatedly. Although that could have also happened. But what I'm talking about now is a memory that came in my nightmares. I remember at first it was just hearing screams. And for years I thought, who's screaming? I'd wake up in a cold sweat and I thought, who's screaming? And then I started listening more adeptly, started wanting to know what's going on in there, in the dream. And since it's not going away, I might as well. And then I started noticing there's other people screaming and it's me screaming all at once. And we're screaming in pain. And then once I accepted that that was going on in the dream, I still didn't believe this was real, but I believed it was going on in the dream. Um, then I started getting visuals of grays standing over me. I'm in a metal table. I remember looking around and seeing other kids my age being cut into. Now I remember myself being younger in the dream than I was when I was having the dream. Because once I started having the visuals, I was a teenager. Um, so I remember, looking younger, like maybe 9, when I actually started having that nightmare occur. Um, I remember being cut open like a fish. It's like from my neck all the way down to my scrotum, just cut open, and they started messing with stuff, and there was no painkillers. I remember screaming in agony.
It's horrifying.
Now, were you strapped to this table?
No, I wasn't strapped. I was held down. It's like I couldn't move. It wasn't like a force holding me down. It was like I had no ability to move my anything below my neck.
Like you were paralyzed?
Yes.
Now, during these times with these tables, when we talked earlier, you had mentioned that it seemed like there was several different places.
Yeah,
You were being brought to.
it was all in one room. There was a whole lot of people, a lot
Hmm.
of kids being done all at once. There was at least 4 or 5 grays on each of us at each table.
So what did the room? Can you describe the room, like what you can
No, I
remember?
can't. I don't remember the walls. The walls are all blacked out. All I remember are the tables.
Hmm. And they were definitely like a steel, shiny metal
Shiny
type thing.
metal tables with at least one light over each, and that's all I remembered
So
from there.
no memories about like temperature or smells or anything like that.
I was too focused on the agony,
Yeah, no, no
the
question.
pain. My mind was trying to block out everything. I woke up in cold sweats, still feeling the pain as a teenager. It was like the physical pain was reoccurring in the nightmare, and it would wake me up.
Hmm. That's terrible, man.
So was it like, the younger you were, the more these memories were blocked out, and then the older you got, the more they started to surface?
I think it was slowly, little by little, I began to inquire more, and accept maybe something was going on, but still, it wasn't until I was maybe 26, yeah, that I finally accepted, okay, this happened to me. And yet I still at that time couldn't say the word, I was abducted. It was still too hard for me to even say that at that time.
Hmm. Now, during this time with when you were on these tables, having these experiments or whatever it is they were doing to you done, do you remember any other um, people in the room besides these grays and the children, or was it all just grays?
I only remember the Grays and the other kids at that time in that memory. There's several nightmares that were reoccurring during those years that started when I was 9. Another one was it was all the same kids that were on the tables too. We were all in this dark room.
Hmm.
It was a square room. Everything was black, everything was dark. Barely enough light to even see that there were other people in the room, just us kids. And we were all huddled up against the walls. We were all holding on to each other, um, freaking out, scared, crying. I remember huddled up with this girl that she was blonde, and we were just huddled up on this one wall and just trying to comfort each other. Um, I remember 2 people walking into the room after a while, and I remember one was a woman, another one was what I thought at the time was a man, but I really wasn't paying attention and I couldn't see much. The woman grabbed the little girl, and I remember her standing there with the little girl in front of her, and she's just holding the little girl by the shoulders, the little girl was just standing there looking at me as I was being drug away. And this person, which I thought was a man, had grabbed me by the right shoulder and was dragging me away. But what I noticed was what I felt. I didn't see his arm because I was looking at the little girl. It's like I was reaching out to her. I didn't want to leave. This was too terrifying. Um, I didn't want to go with this person. But I could feel his fingers were not human fingers. They were too bony, almost like the feeling you get from a crab claw. But it was multiple digits. It was a bony finger, like as if the skeleton was on the outside.
Maybe some sort of mantid hybrid, sectoid hybrid.
Or full-blooded. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Well, we know from, or from what we've learned from speaking with other, uh, space program survivors and abductees and other people who've been involved with this deep for a long time. There's definitely more than one species of greys out there, and especially for our new listeners, not all greys are the same. There are tall ones, there are short ones, there are sentient ones, there are drones. They're not a one size fits all kind of deal.
Interdimensional meat puppet greys.
Yeah, and so
Just like humanoids, there are so many different kinds of humans, so many different kinds of insects, so many different kinds of reptilians, so many different kinds of gray beings.
So,
considering what happened later to you, one would assume that these would be the drone type that are,
Probably
The ones
by-
that
probably
are
Draco
doing the
controlled.
actual work at the surgery tables, I would assume, are the drone type.
now we've been hearing a lot more about friendlier species of greys coming forth too, like the Zetas or the Ponti.
Honestly, I personally would not trust any gray, even if they came at me with friendship.
Right. Well, after having an experience like that, I bet it would probably be hard to.
It would be
Seriously.
very hard for me.
Now if Thor of the Asgard from SG1 showed up, I'd be all about it. But
Take me to the chopper.
Yeah. It's probably the only gray I don't have a problem with.
well, no, the Sandia crew greys seem pretty nice, but
Yeah, I guess last week Kevin Estrella, he was talking about some that he's been in contact with. They seem like okay types. I mean, I don't know. I never met them, so I couldn't really say. But they were having a tea party a good old time. So, but like I said, in your case, it seems like those are drones being controlled by either humans or Dracos.
That was my assumption.
That's what it would seem like. I couldn't tell you that for certain, but so 9 years old, you start getting the missing Thursdays. You start getting this reoccurring nightmare memory about the tables and stuff. So what's the next step? What kind of happens next after that?
Well, there was this one memory I had. I seemed older, like maybe 12 or 13 in this memory. It was another dark room, but it was very large. It was huge, like hundreds of yards. Um, Very dimly lit, just enough to where we can see the other side of the room. Behind us, above us, maybe like on a second or third story, there's this, maybe second story, there's this observation room. It's all glassed out. And there's people in there, and they all look human in the memory. But what's in front of us is this giant being, which I didn't know who it was, what it was, until later on when I started really remembering a lot.
So describe the being to me.
He was a reptilian, um, turtle type. He was huge. If you looked at the Ninja Turtles from the new movies, the live action, the newest ones, about 12 foot tall, extremely broad shoulders, maybe broader than in those movies, a lot broader. no indication that he was descended from a turtle. He just looked like a reptilian.
Right, so no shell or anything like that.
I didn't really notice a shell or anything like that.
So what color?
Um,
What color was he?
it was too dark. It was too dark to really tell. From my perspective, with the lighting, it seemed almost like a mix of dark greens or browns, maybe.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay, so then what?
well, there's that blonde girl again, and she's older too. I'm on the left side, she's on the right side, and we're both wearing um, these one-piece suits with what seems like just things extruding from them. Um,
Can you clarify that? Like, was it tubes or?
no tubes. It was just almost like maybe monitoring equipment or something.
Mhm.
That's kind of the best. Um,
So now this one-piece suit is like a jumpsuit, like you would see a prison inmate wearing, or something like that.
no, it was very tight. It was skin tight.
It's like a speed suit type deal,
Yeah, maybe like
like a wetsuit sort of.
yeah. It seemed kind of like that. But all black with these weird technological extrusions from it, which, as I've examined this memory, the only assumption I can get from it is that there may be monitoring equipment.
Right.
Um,
That makes
so
sense.
then, so then the reptilian starts charging at us, um, and we begin just evasive maneuvers. We're doing almost acrobatics around his attacks, literally bouncing, jumping, spinning off of him. I think the goal of that was a test to see if we could survive an encounter with something that big, that strong, that formidable. Um, and for a good little bit, we were evading every attack. And if we saw an opening, we were allowed to attack ourselves. But if you attacked with just physical might, there's no chance against something that big. You've got to be able to use it's almost like a psionic kinetic abilities, which looks like you're hitting him, but really you're impacting with your energy, and it's creating much more impact. Um, Almost like a tactile telekinesis type of deal. I guess I would say. Um, but there was this one moment when the girl was off balance. She was brought off balance, and he was about to hit her head on. It would have killed her. At least if it had stayed at full strength. But I pushed her out of the way and took the hit. But the reptilian was already looked like he was holding back and slowing the hit down.
Hmm.
It didn't kill me, but it did break a lot of bones. I remember laying there, not even screaming out. My face was completely blank, but I remember laying there, looking back at the observation room, and I remember the people in the room. I could feel what they were thinking and feeling, and they weren't very happy with me. And I don't know. I still don't know why.
Now, did you feel any pain from that?
Um, in my memory, I don't remember. Um, I must have, but I don't remember any pain from the memory itself.
Right.
I just remember not reacting to it.
Well, I mean, they could have you on something that prevents you from feeling pain too.
Well, even to this day, I live in pain, even right now, and you don't see it on my face.
Right.
I've learned to. I don't know how to shut it off like other people can. I just don't react. I choose not to react to it. If I know it's there and I'm able to get used to it and just choose not to react to it.
So now, fast forward a little bit. Do you have any memories of this same girl in any other recalls?
No, it was just those two that I saw her.
So do you remember, what happened to her after that? Like, did they take her away?
Nope,
Just that's it. Just ends there, huh?
I don't remember anything else about her after those two memories of her.
Would be pretty interesting if you could.
I've asked about it. I've asked other people. Um, I've tried to focus on that when I'm doing my memory recall techniques, and I haven't gotten anything any farther with that yet.
Okay, so is that just real quick for the audience? Is that sound level a little better for you now? I just saw
Sounds
someone
good to
said
me.
that me and Dan were a little too low in
Uh,
comparison with you.
I I don't hear any change. Sounds
Right.
just
Well,
fine to
it's.
me.
I know. I was talking to them in the chat room because it's
Oh,
the mix going out to the stream
I
is
got you.
different than the one we're hearing, which is why we always have issues with it because we can't monitor the stream live. We have to get our listeners to do it for us.
I understand.
And hopefully, sometime coming up soon, we'll have a producer that we're bringing on board,
Yeah, and
which
then
would
he'll
definitely be a game changer.
he'll be able to monitor the stream and make any adjustments needed. So
Well, that's cool.
look for that soon, hopefully. Okay, so now this memory, this happened about approximately how old do you remember yourself being in this
Well,
memory?
in the memory, when I can't see myself, but looking at the girl, the same girl that was in the previous memory when we were first taken, she looked about a few years older, maybe 12 or 13. So I must have been.
Okay. And you started having this dream, how old were you?
This was one of the first dreams I
One
ever
of your
had
first
when I was
dreams.
9.
Okay. So you were actually dreaming when you were 9 that you were older.
Yes.
Very interesting.
This
So,
the dream of me being cut open, the dream of being in the what I call the holding room, and then the testing room with the reptilian, all of those were happening at the same time. All those dreams, I'll call them nightmares at the time, they were all happening repeatedly together within the same nights.
okay, so,
There was a few others happening at the same time too.
well, tell us about them.
Well, there was one. There was this giant, very long corridor lined with these what looked almost like stainless steel jacuzzis with steps and railing going into them. But what was inside of them looked very weird and nasty. I looked at it, and at first, it looked almost like gumbo to me. I live in the South. I'm
Right.
from Louisiana. I see that color, and I think gumbo. And then all of a sudden, I see hands and arms and feet stirring around in it, and I'm like, oh my god. That was one of the most aside from the memory of screaming, the dream of screaming, that was one of the most horrifying
Right.
of seeing human body parts just boiling away in these giant things you just walk right into.
How big would you say one of these jacuzzis were?
Well, I don't really know how big they were because I don't know how old I was or how big I was in comparison.
Right.
But judging by the steps, um, the steps were maybe, I'd say standard steps are what, 2 foot wide? And I'm only going by assumption here. So they had to have been um, their diameter was maybe um, 4 times the width, the diameter of
Just
those steps,
somewhere like 5 to 8 feet.
maybe.
Okay, so it's definitely big enough for a grown person, a grown regular sized human to lay down in.
Maybe 2 or 3 of them
Okay.
in one.
Did you get anything else from that memory? Smells,
I
temperatures?
didn't remember any smells or anything, just the visuals.
Okay.
Um, what was the other ones around that time? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That
I'm
one's
trying to
kind of
remember from our previous conversation too, but I
right.
got so much stuff
That
rattling
that
around up there.
memory's kind of blowing up in my mind right now, so it's pushing everything else out. Um,
Okay. All right. So I guess bringing up a little closer to now. Um,
okay.
I guess what tell me about what happened in your 20s.
I was about Well, there was a lot of shit going down in my house, physically in my house in my 20s. There was this one night, my parents can't remember this to this day, and it's so weird. There's at least 2 or 3 events that happened in my house that my parents don't remember, and yet they were part of the events that occurred. They witnessed them. Yet I'm the only witness to the event. Um, we had just gotten, my mom had just bought a Yorkie, the first Yorkie, Maggie.
Aw.
Um, so I was either 20 or 21. I think it was the March or April just before my 21st birthday. My birthday's in June that we got her. And it was after that. I was going to school at ITT at the time. So it had to have been in fall um, when this occurred. Maggie was in the playpen. She slept in a playpen until she was potty trained.
Okay, so who's Maggie?
Maggie's the dog, the
Okay.
Yorkie. So she slept in a playpen, and that night, for some reason, she was in the kitchen. She was up against the back door, um, and I was in the bedroom, my parents' bedroom, talking. We were chit chatting, all 3 of us sitting on the bed chit chatting, and Maggie starts barking out of nowhere, just won't stop, hollering and screaming. Um, so I went into the kitchen to find out what's going on, and for some reason the back light had gone out. The back porch light was out, um, and so I'm like, "What are you barking about?" And she won't stop barking. And suddenly I'm looking out the back door window because the door is like back door is like a half a window. Um, and I see this weird round um, thing just moving along the fence line. Um, from my perspective, looking out the back door, it was moving from left to right along the fence line, and it's just a round thing moving just above the fence line. And there's a gas station behind our house, so I could see just enough, and it's on the other side of the road and off to the side, so there's just enough light to see this bubble over the fence. Um, but I didn't know what was going on until the car passed and the lights from the car shone through the fence posts. and suddenly I see a full bipedal being walking in my backyard from left to right, going for the open gate in my backyard. And it looked all wrinkly. I couldn't get a color, but it looked all wrinkly. I forgot to mention um, there was these glowing red balls below the fence line, just below the fence line, moving in perfect synchronicity with the round orb over the fence line. And once the car passed and I saw the full bipedal being, I noticed those were its eyeballs. And it was staring at me the whole time it was walking by. And I couldn't see through this being. This being was physically there. Um, I freaked out, ran into my bedroom, grabbed my gun, and ran out the front door to the side of the house that that gate opened up to. I'm yelling to my dad, "Get your gun! Get your gun!" And he meets me out there, and he's like, "What? What?" And I'm too in shock to be able to answer him at that moment. What's coming out of my mouth is just stuttering, um, but it's like I'm on full alert mode at the same time, full flight or fight mode at that moment. But then that was it. I go inside. I calmed down after a bit, and then told my parents exactly what I saw. To this day, they don't remember this at all.
Interesting.
There was another event around the same time, within a few months of that, at the most. I don't remember exactly. I just know this was all going down around the same time period. I remember waking up to my dad storming out of his bedroom. I woke up out of a dream. In the dream, the bay windows were rattling and shattered, and I was being sucked into this black void on the other end. I woke up. I thought nothing of it. That was just a dream. At this time, I was still believing this was all dreams. This was nothing. It's just my imagination.
You
Um,
didn't know that any of this stuff was really going on.
I didn't. I didn't really believe any of this was genuinely going on. I thought I was crazy. Um, but I remember my dad. The next day, I get home from school from ITT, and he asks me, "Did you hear that noise last night?" And I said, "What noise?" He said he walked into the kitchen. He said he was woken by a rattling noise in the kitchen, and he walks into the kitchen, and all the windows in the bay window of the dining room were rattling as if people were on the other end banging them until they were going to shatter, but they never shattered, and there was no one there while they were rattling. And I told him about my dream, and we just stood there like, huh, about the correlation between the two events, or I should say the one event, two experiences, and didn't say anything of it after that. And to this day, my mom and dad can't remember that at all.
Um,
Um,
we're
what do
gonna
you
be
say?
we're gonna be coming up on the break soon. Did you want to get into? I know we're probably gonna need to touch on a little bit of the trauma based kind of conditioning and training and stuff that you went through as a child.
Mind fracturing type stuff.
Yeah, I started remembering all that recently in the last few months. Um,
Well, I feel like it's an important piece because in a lot of cases, people who start remembering this stuff seem to start remembering that stuff first. I guess because
hmm,
it's so traumatic or whatever, and it's right near the beginning. Everybody's different, but I kind of would like to focus in on that a little bit and what you actually went through.
I
My
got you.
point is, we could take the break down, come in afterwards, or if you think you can sum it up within 10 minutes, then we can start now. But I think it'll probably take a little bit longer than that.
Well, I can start.
Okay.
And if I finish, I finish. If not, we can continue.
Yeah, let's try that.
Um, that I started remembering. I didn't want to remember that. Basically, it's like I didn't want to believe that had happened to me because of things, stories other people have told me about what was going on, about what they did to us, and I didn't think that had happened to me. I didn't want to think that had happened to me. Um, and then I started not being able to deny it. I started remembering I was beaten, electrocuted, burned. I was raped many times. That's that's been very hard for me to talk about. I haven't even spoken about that to my mom. Um,
I mean, how do you bring that up?
Yeah, that's probably a
exactly.
tough. It's not really an icebreaker, you know.
The only people I've actually brought that up with is other SSP vets who have had that experience happen to them also.
Well,
It's easier to talk to them.
right. So now, who can you remember who was perpetrating this on you? Was it Greys?
The
Was it humans?
humans, it was humans doing this. All the torture was, aside from the medical
Right.
things, the actual legitimate torture was done all by humans.
See, another thing I'm kind of wondering is, and I don't know what's true in your case, but a lot of times they'll use screen memories of gray beings, and it will actually be, say, humans cutting you open, but they use some sort of screen memory to make you
Hmm.
think it's aliens.
Well, that's definitely a possibility. I've had screen memories I've had to work through before,
Hmm.
but I haven't tried those techniques of removing them on that memory.
Right. Okay, so now, when this type of stuff was happening to you, do you remember like what type of facility you were in?
The training facility seemed almost like you know the Daedalus and Prometheus off of Stargate SG-1 and
Absolutely.
Stargate
Number
Atlantis.
one fan right here. Sit right here.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I own all of them. But anyway, the corridors and all, the whole metal structure with the gray paint. That's what the training facility looked like.
Hmm.
And that's where all the torture occurred.
So no kind of idea of whether you're underground, above ground, in space, or
No windows.
no
I
planet.
would. I couldn't.
No telling where you were at. You could have been anywhere.
I couldn't tell. I don't know.
Do you remember kind of like day to day goings on? Like what?
I don't remember that much of it.
You don't remember? You
I
don't
just
remember?
remember brief moments here and there.
Not anything other than the trauma. So like not like eating or waking up out of bed or maybe talking
No,
to someone.
not none of that basics. There was this one memory. I was much older, probably late teens, early um, adult. Um, I remember sitting on a bed, same gray um, looking area as the training was going on, um, with two other people, a guy and a girl, um, and we were all in our underwear. We're all just sitting there. I remember I was sitting on one side with my left leg off the bed. She was sitting away across from me, with both her legs kind of in her arms like this, and then the guy was sitting in between us, cross-legged, um, um, like just squatting there. Um, and we were just chit-chatting. I remember that was the only memory I ever had where we had where people were smiling.
Hmm. So, um,
And for our listeners, you hear, oh wow, there's a secret space program going on up there. There's people going off world in spaceships and whatnot. Wow, that must be cool. But It really doesn't sound like it's cool.
No, it's
from
not, guys.
A lot of what we've heard from our guests, and
there's a few people out there who kind of glorify it a little bit. You know, maybe they had a good experience with it or whatever the case may be. But the vast majority of people that we speak with, it does not sound like a good time.
no.
I personally believe that the people who make it all up with hype and paint a pretty picture about it are either full of screen memories or fakes.
Right. Or who knows, maybe even something more nefarious than that, kind of like a plant conditioning
Right.
type thing. But, you know, who knows, because there's no, you know, physical evidence that anyone can bring forward, you know, besides stories and of memories and things like that. So there's no way to, you know, quote unquote, prove it in the eyes of, you know, the masses, so to speak.
Unfortunately.
So I mean, you know, I don't even want to get into it. I'm gonna get started. I'm gonna get wound up. I'm gonna end up sounding like Alex Jones. Let's not go down that route.
I mean, I kind of like it when you get all red faced and start going off. You know what I mean?
Return of the Frog's gay.
Once we start selling some water filters, we're set.
Yeah, you guys, we're gonna soon realitybrief.net. You're gonna be able to get water filters,
A year's supply of quality food.
man pills, you name it, we got it. No, but seriously, you know, it's not a joking matter. This type of stuff that, you know, we know it as, you know, MK Ultra type things. This violent, traumatic fracturing of a person's consciousness to create alters. Now, have you started integrating any alters? Have you come across any alters yet?
Well, I've accidentally interfaced with some, but I'm starting to question whether they were actual alters or whether they were me still serving right now,
Right.
not having gone back in time yet.
Well, from what I understand, they can take your alter, which is like, you know, I guess you can, it's a piece of your consciousness, right? Because your consciousness is broken up into several pieces, or however, I was listening to a program last night, and it was said something like 2,200. Or
Something along those
like
lines.
that, right?
I
So
don't remember the numbers.
they could take each one of those fragments, which you can consider it's your consciousness, so you can consider it sort of your soul, and transfer each one. So you could be serving in 2,200 different places at once, at any given time.
And the real you is still here on Earth, sort of
Exactly.
bumbling
Because-
around
Right.
in dirt mud. But, you know, you have...
Right.
So, you know, it may not be a case of you connecting with yourself doing a 20 and back. It could be, you know, a current
Well,
thing.
this one person I interfaced with seemed to be the exact same person I interfaced. I'm having the memories of serving as a pilot, but older. He's older. I get the sense from him that he's got a lot more responsibility than that now. But I don't know. I don't even know his name, whether it's me or an alter,
So you,
or what his rank is.
I know.
Or,
I know when we talked earlier, you said that a lot of what you get is visuals and not a whole lot of sounds and stuff. Do you know, kind of like, did you get a look at yourself, like what you were wearing, anything like that? That might be a clue.
most of my memories are just of the standard black uniform, all black two-piece uniform. This one memory that was recently last month was of a gray uniform. And that was weird. I started asking around, and Kale, all I asked him was, "What's up with the gray uniform?" And what he described to me was precisely to a T what I described to Penny. And so that's when I started thinking, okay, I'm not making this up. I must have actually seen something. I must have actually interfaced with him.
Very interesting. We are going to jump to the break. So you got about 10 minutes if you need to stretch your legs, maybe use the bathroom, get a drink, whatever you want to do. And then we'll be back on. So I'm going to go ahead and mute your audio now and get all that started to go.
We don't necessarily recommend smoking while we're on break, but it's what I'm going to do.
All right. And bam, here we go. So guys, when we get back, we're going to be going into, in further detail about his service in the secret space programs, Nacht Waffen. I know there's people out there listening just laughing at that. Yeah, okay. Laugh it up, guys. Anyway, when we get back, we'll be getting more into that. So for now, though, we'd like to leave you with some inspirational quotes. And it's really just great. Somebody posted this in our wonderful Facebook group earlier. It might have been a day or two ago. And, it's just really great. If you're in the mood for some inspiration, hop on over to inspirobot.me. It'll cook you up a meme, or it'll even do this mindfulness mode.
Mindfulness
So,
or
guys,
mindlessness mode?
Guys, get a load of this, and we'll see.
Attempt to breathe through your gonad. I'm attempting.
We'll see you guys on the other side of the break.
Chinese proverb: freedom doesn't cost you $1. Back in ancient Sweden, there was a young traveler who was in search of a dragon on the palace grounds. It was then that he encountered a crazy, old witch. Witch, where can a young traveler like myself find a dragon? He asked the witch. The witch immediately replied, "Of a dragon I do not know, for I am but a mere witch." The traveler groped the witch and did as she had said. 10 years later, the traveler understood, each human being is all God if only we believe in ourselves. And he knew that his life had been successful. Realize that you're stuck in a coma and remember that it's all thanks to yourself. Can you feel how the cells in your body are dissolving the air you breathe? Repeat to yourself, "I'm very cool, I'm very cool." Try to control what the elite does not expect you to control. Never admit to anybody that you are a genius. To achieve the right state, consider these words of wisdom. If you punch surveillance, prepare to trust boldness. Keep focusing on your breath. Consider these words of wisdom. Your girlfriend is cooked. Consider how uncomfortable thoughts are actually just women coming to an end. If you seek to fix wealth, a way to start can be to search within yourself. Notice the sensation of how your eyelids are pulsating. Keep in mind that the king of yoga once said, "Those who connect to positivity, talk about beauty." Keep reminding yourself that you are not gullible. Keep on breathing. tell yourself, my existence has a higher purpose. A long time ago there was a God-fearing shepherd who was wandering around by the countryside trying to acquire water. That was when he encountered an unmarried witch. "Dearest witch, can you please tell me where a God-fearing shepherd like myself find water?" he asked the witch. The witch did not have to think for long. "I have no idea," replied the witch. The shepherd considered the witch's answer. Then he pushed her off a cliff. 10 years later, when he was complaining about his apple tree, the shepherd had an epiphany. "Blessed is the son who rejoices over his dung, for he also loves his moments." And then he killed himself. Breathe deeply. Can you feel how the voices in your head are independent from everything? Pay attention to how your left hemisphere is breathing together with your body. Take a deep breath. In. And out. We cannot improve things by infecting. We can just improve things by screaming. People who advertise wives worship praise. Notice how the voices in your head are dissolving the air you breathe. Dream about companionship. Expect your true self. Keep repeating this to yourself. My mind is grateful. My mind is grateful. Investing in cryptocurrencies is an abrupt bungee jump to madness. Remember to say to yourself, my mind is mindful. Invert your lungs backwards. Feel your bowels dropping. Remember that a wise man said, before the lovemaking comes friendship.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for hour 2, the hour of power. You're watching Reality Brief. I'm Don, that's
Dan.
that guy. We'd like to give a shout out to 7-Eleven and Wawa for freeing Dan of 7-Eleven.
Yeah, the show is definitely sponsored by Wawa now. And NOS.
Of course, various entities of the military-industrial complex in which the area that we live and broadcast from the super secret undisclosed location. You guys, if you like what you see, you can hop on over to Facebook. And listen, we're gonna open up the floor here for questions for Matt here in a little bit. So if you're watching over at Twitch or Breakers or wherever else you may be watching, you hop over to YouTube channel to get your question in. Because unfortunately, we ain't monitoring all in chats. This is too much goddamn work, man. This is almost like a job that I don't get paid for, man.
But, it's honestly the best kind of job because it's the one you truly enjoy.
I do truly enjoy it.
On that note, at Patreon, we have a Patreon, but we don't like to hold people to things. We don't like to obligate people to that sort of thing. So, if you want, you could do Ask the Google Machine. Oh, great Google Machine, direct me to the Reality Brief Bandcamp page, and pay what you want for a download of one of our shows. You could pay nothing. You could pay 5 cents.
You can pay $10 if you want to give us $10.
Yeah, you could.
Cool.
I mean, I wouldn't advise it, but, I wouldn't deter you either. So, that said, we got a Bandcamp page, and coming soon, we're going to have a Reality Brief Redbubble store where you can order stickers and hats and gears and all sorts of fun stuff.
Also, be awaiting the official release of the realitybrief.net coming soon to the internet near you.
And it won't just be a redirect to our Facebook page. It'll actually be a site.
Woo! So, Matt, you back with us?
Yep.
Oh, did I do the right one again? Jeez, I'm just all over the place with these buttons tonight. There we go. We got the right one.
You and your buttons.
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you just fine. This is, let's see. Speak one more time. Let me make sure you got meter there.
Hola.
Yeah, all right. We can hear him.
There he is.
Let me check the chat. Make sure we can hear you.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Our listeners, our wonderful listeners, the producers of this show. Okay, so when we left off, we were talking about you kind of connecting with maybe an alter, maybe yourself serving a current 20 and back. Still, you talked about it looking like sound check good. Thanks, guys. Bam.
Thanks, everyone.
Woo. So the black uniform, everything that obviously suggests Nacht Waffen, the Darkfleet, the German group. Why don't you fill us in a little bit more on your memories of that and bring us up to speed of why you've come to that conclusion of that's the program you were serving with.
Well, if it is actually me I'm interfacing with and just haven't gone back in time yet and age regressed, and it'll probably be longer than a 20 and back because I was taken at 9. Mm-hmm. I'm 32 now, so it would have been 23 years.
Right. Well, we have been finding a lot that people will be serving a lot of terms. They may even do 50-year stretches. They may do 425s. They may do a 20, and they may only do 12. It just.
I really don't know. I don't know what I'm doing or what I've done. I'm trying to put all the pieces together.
Right.
So, but yeah. So.
Well, I mean, I said it once. I said it a million times. You go through this process of however exactly it works. You're somehow time traveled consciously or physically, age regressed, however all that works. But the key thing is, no matter what, they scramble the hell out of your head. So you got this spaghettified mess merging with, and I said it before, like, if me and Dan went through the same exact secret space program scenario, like to the T, like if we were practically, if we were the same person, if we were entangled, when we got back to our regular lives, we would both remember that experience completely differently because it would mesh with regular memories from real life. It would mesh with TV programs, just everything rattling around up inside of your head. So, I mean, it's no question it's hard to work out and piece together, and it takes time. And you've only recently started, feeling like this is it, this is what happened. So, I mean, it'll probably be a few years before you really get a handle on the complete picture of it.
Right.
I would imagine.
Not to mention the fact all the screen memories I got to work through and figure out what's real, what's not.
So, I know you don't have a whole lot of clear memories with audio and all of that stuff, but give us the rundown of what it was like serving in that group. For the first thing, you you said that were a pilot. So explain to us and the listeners exactly what that entails and what that was like.
Well, I remember the bridge of the ship I served on. I can almost, it's one of the few memories that I can literally give maybe 80, 90% details of the room. Um, I remember sitting in the chair and closing my eyes, and then suddenly I'm outside of the ship and I'm controlling the ship. But it's weird. If it was just skin surface sensors of the ship that I'm using, I should be seeing with the ship's eyes. But
Hmm.
it's more like I'm astral projecting. I'm outside of the ship. I'm able to spin around and look at the ship.
It almost sounds like to me. Have you ever played, you know, now in your normal everyday life? Have you ever got to play or experience VR?
No,
That it's very similar to like what you described to me. When we were talking before, and I'm wondering if it's like almost like an advanced form of that. Like, you think this was technologically aided, or do you think that you were able to just do this psychically on your own?
I'm I'm leaning more towards at this moment anyway. I'm leaning more towards the chair is some way both helping me do it and then also technologically adding to it.
So now the ship that you were piloting, do you know the purpose of the ship?
I've asked, I've basically just thrown the question out in the air to myself anyway, and the answer that keeps popping up is fast attack cruiser and escort.
Okay. So, do you remember? No, I know Penny it was a pilot too, but her experience was a little bit different than yours, where she was merged with the ship's computer. Do you remember anything like that? She
No,
she was also traveling on a or driving, whatever,
I
flying.
don't remember any technology embedded in my body as part of it. I remember sitting in a chair.
Okay.
I had to interface by sitting in a chair. And our ships were different too.
Right. She was on a freight ship. She was transporting cargo. So
I served on a teardrop shaped combat oriented ship.
now, being a pilot, you would assume that you would have to have some kind of officer status,
Right.
lieutenant or at least something
The
like that.
first memory I gained of serving, where I actually had audio, and I had to really dig for that. Tony Rodriguez taught me a technique, and then I modified it a little, added a little bit to it, and started playing around with it. And suddenly I'm on the bridge and I'm hearing somebody call out, Lieutenant. But it was weird. It was almost like I heard a word, and then suddenly I hear English Lieutenant, and I turned to look at somebody.
Hmm.
Um, it was weird. I don't think I spoke German. I think there was some sort of translator involved.
Hmm. Yeah, was it Tomas that was talking about that? Kind of like a universal translator thing.
Yeah, like
Now he served, according to his memories, he served on a
Jap-
Darkfleet ship that was run by Japanese or some type of Asian people that was out in the rim doing like kind of like police actions and stuff.
Mm.
And there was a lot of different species and a lot of different languages, and I think it was him that was talking about like a universal translator type thing, kind of like from Star Trek.
That's probably where they got the idea to put that in Star Trek.
Right.
well, yeah, and we actually did a whole show a while back talking about Gene Roddenberry and how he was connected to MK Ultra and Majestic 12 and Andrija Puharich and all the government remote viewing programs and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
learned about all that too recently.
So again, we're not trying to like press you here on a whole lot because I know you don't have a whole bunch of details. But do you remember any kind of like did you ever get any flashes of any kind of day-to-day goings-ons, like, you know, meetings maybe, or eating, or
I got just a couple of memories of stuff like that. I remember walking onto the bridge. I remember walking over to what we had behind. The way the bridge layout was is you had the bridge window, and then maybe 12 or so feet behind that, maybe 12 or 15 feet behind that, there's the chair that I sit in, and that whole area is dropped down one step from the rest of the bridge. Behind the chair is this big old, almost like a pillar, but it triangles outward as it goes up to the ceiling. Behind that is this step up area where there's this table, and the table is this TV like screen, and there's railing all around the step up, and behind that TV like screen is four chairs on this step up area. And the chairs, there's two on either side, and then behind that is a wall where there's monitors and chairs facing the monitors, and then now facing away from the window to the left area of that step up is more monitors and chairs, and then to the right side of that step up is the entrance into the bridge, onto the bridge. And then to the right of all that, I have no memory yet of looking in that direction. All that's blacked out for me.
So, give me a detailed description, the best you can, of the bridge, like colors, schemes, lighting.
Charcoal. Everything looks like a charcoal color, dull, non-reflective, no lighting but what's coming out the window and the monitors.
So pretty dark in there.
Pretty much.
Okay. Now the chair.
When the door opens, the corridor on the outside is very light. It's very bright.
But it's dark in the bridge.
But it's dark on the bridge.
Now, do you think, was it dark every time that you had a memory of that, or was it?
The bridge has always been dark, every memory, but the corridor outside has always been bright.
So these chairs that you sat in, can you describe them? Like, what would be a good comparison? Like, the material they're made out of?
It's like a metal. It's different than the rest of the bridge. The rest of the bridge is like a dull charcoal-like color. But the chair looks like a brushed metal.
So no padding or anything like that?
I don't remember very well that. I remember I was comfortable in it. That's about it. There could have been padding.
Man, you got a ton of veterans in the chat tonight, man. You should feel proud about that.
Yeah.
Coming in and check you out, man. Someone's agreeing with you. They don't ever remember having any colors on the bridge either.
Like no pretty blue glowy things, or
Just the monitors and the window. And the window, it's weird. It took me a while to figure this out. But when I have memories, if there's multiple memories of the same environment and the environment changes, in my memories it flip-flops between the two until I make it stabilize and choose, okay, I'm going to look at the window, or I'm going to look at the not window now, because apparently that window can shut, like some sort of blast door or something, I don't know.
Interesting. Now, do you remember having, like, other people on the bridge with you, or can you just remember, like...
I remember the captain, and I remember who I think is the first officer. At least I assume he is.
So you remember their faces?
No, I don't remember their faces.
Okay.
Their faces are blacked out. Sometimes their faces are completely black. Other times their faces are just fuzzy.
Right.
Does it feel like
Um,
somebody's gone in and like surgically edited out some of these memories?
I mean, obviously.
just the faces. Just the faces. I've had a couple of memories where I actually remembered seeing people, but they were low rank people, like trainees alongside me. I remember seeing their faces vividly, and then an hour later, it's all gone.
Do you know of any implants? Like if there may be any physical or even etheric objects that have been left in your body from all these experiences?
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they were found inside me, but I'm not aware of any at this time.
So they're talking about in the chat chips that connect you to the ship's computer.
I don't remember any of that. I remember having to sit in the chair and close my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, it's like my vision is outside of the ship.
It's pretty wild. Something else came up recently that was kind of just like that. I'm trying to remember what it was. It's inconsequential.
Somebody in chat brings up same with the faces. I think they block off the facial recognition part of your brain off somehow. And between that and there have been a few other things that have popped up in my life that really make me wonder. My facial recognition on board technology that I have on board me now kind of sucks.
So, do you have any kind of recalls about any type of action, like battles, skirmishes, missions?
A few.
So can you tell us about some of those?
They're very vague. I remember doing some evasive maneuvers. I don't remember what I was doing. I just remember being hit by something. I remember a hole forming in the ship. Air blowing out. The air that blew out of the hole caught fire. Was superheated, caught fire. I remember a ship beside us completely exploding. It's about all I remember of that.
When you when the hole got blown in the ship that you're controlling, can you remember like what that sensation was like? Did it affect you in a certain way, being psychically linked to the ship? Like almost like, did you feel it, or?
It was more like I could see it. It's like I could see everything that was going on with the ship as if I was outside the ship.
Mm-hmm.
As far as what I was physically experiencing, I didn't feel any jolts until the air that was rushing out of the ship exploded.
So, but you felt that like in the ship itself, rocking or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay. So no kind of empathic link to the ship, just all purely visual.
At least in my memories.
Okay.
They may not be as vivid, so I may not have all of that experience.
Excuse me, sorry.
And it's literally brief moments, like half a second or two.
Right. Well, I mean, it'll, in my experience with talking to people who are going through this, the more time that passes, the more stuff you'll start to gain back.
Right.
As long as you put in the work. Like
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. I've built my own support group, a personal support group of people that I talk to regularly, bring stuff up with,
So
bounce stuff off of.
now we had talked earlier about different types of techniques and stuff to help you try and regain memories. Would you want to share that with the viewers, so in case anybody out there who stumbles across this video might be going through what you're going through?
Sure.
From what I understand, it's kind of hard to find help. Like, you're lucky that you were able to get yourself a support group and a network and stuff to talk to people. So, if someone might be going through this themselves, what is the best advice you can give them to try and bring back some of their lost memories?
Well, the technique that I use is a kind of a meditation. First, you have to completely relax your entire mind and body, emotionally, everything, physically. I use a YouTube video, and it's basically it's one of those guided meditations for past life memory regression. But instead of focusing on that part of the video, I just use the video to relax my mind and my body, and then I focus on what I want to focus on,
Right.
and that's recalling memories. Then I go into, once I've relaxed to that point, then I go into the technique that Tony taught me, and basically using the memories I've already gained as what he calls, I think he calls them keystone memories. Basically, they're anchor points. And the more you immerse yourself into that memory, the more it'll play out. Or it will jump to a new memory that you haven't recalled yet. You're just now recalling at that moment. What I would recommend to people do is make sure you, when you go into this technique, you're completely non-biased towards what you're experiencing. You have to be completely emotionally detached to what you're experiencing. Because any emotion, any joltedness, any fatigue you're experiencing while you're doing this is going to jump you right out. It's going to cancel the whole effect. So
Well, it sounds like some pretty solid advice. And, I would add, you could use a guided meditation, or you could just use anything really that would relax you and
right.
try to help you clear your mind. Like, if you're into the sounds of the ocean, or maybe rain is relaxing to you, or something like that. Guided meditations are generally, someone speaking and telling you to relax yourself. And
right.
Some that works well for some people, others not so much. But it's all about what works for you. What you have to do. The key is to relax yourself and let yourself be able to get into that frame of mind where you could start pulling this stuff out of your subconscious.
Oddly enough,
Right.
you know what I find really relaxing? There's this channel that I found on YouTube that has the engine sounds of all sorts of, famous fictional starships and whatnot on like 12-hour loops. So for a couple of years, I've been falling asleep to a 12-hour loop of the Enterprise D's engine noises, or maybe Voyager's.
That's funny.
And it works though. It really it's a great white noise filter, and it actually chills me
Wow.
out. Like, I find it oddly comforting.
Yeah.
It is a nice noise.
I'd like to add, the way I anchor myself into this effect, into recalling more memories, is I really immerse myself as deeply as possible. I make myself believe that I'm back into that moment again. I make myself feel the uniform around me as if I'm actually wearing it right now, and it thrusts me back into that moment. You really got to immerse yourself into some sort of sensory perception of that moment that you're using as an anchor point. And then either that memory will play out, or or your subconscious will pull out a totally new memory that you haven't recalled yet, and that will play out. One or the other. You should not try to force anything at all. Let your subconscious be in control. You're a backseat driver. Just go with the flow.
Now, have you ever attempted to have I use this word lightly, but professional regression?
No,
Like
I want
paid someone?
to. I want to, but I haven't had it done yet.
So, tell me a little bit more about your memories serving in the Nacht Waffen.
They range wide. There I have a memory of me in this room that's all like brushed and polished metal, and I'm grabbing these glass bottles of clear liquid and putting them into this crate out of this cabinet. And this guy walks through this door, and what's funny is the door to the bridge is a slide door, but this door was a handle open on hinges. So I'm confused as to where all these memories fit. But this guy walks in, and I remember saying, I'm coming. And I remember walking out with these bottles of clear liquid, and I've been told that that was probably vodka.
Vodka, space vodka.
Hey, sign me up for some space vodka.
The drink of choice of homicidal penguins in Antarctica. It's a little running joke.
Then there's other memories of on the colony I lived on. Um, I think it was some sort of asteroid or moon orbiting a gas giant. The gas giant was kind of orangish in color, but it had rings. I vaguely remember rings, so I don't think it was in our solar system.
I mean, orange sounds kind of like Jupiter at first glance, or maybe Saturn with, with the sun hitting it a certain way.
That's what I had originally thought, but then I started recalling rings around it. But yeah, Saturn, but the colors just don't seem right from pictures I've seen of Saturn.
Right. It could have been Titan. Titan looks orange.
You said there was rings around it, though, right?
Yeah, there's rings around it.
Oh, gotcha.
I mean, it could have been anywhere, honestly.
It was definitely a gas giant, and there were rings around it.
Which would be a pretty common thing throughout the galaxy.
Yeah.
For sure. So it really could have been anywhere.
I remember the colony was above ground. It was domed out in glass.
Someone's asking bright orange, so just to have you confirm it was bright orange.
Yeah.
So maybe someone in the chat right now may have another memory of something similar. I guess
we'll
find out.
I'd love to speak with anybody that can, tell me about this place, because I have very few brief memories of it.
They just said it pops. Says it's triggering something. You may hear something about it later. And speaking of which, anybody in the chat right now has got any questions for Matt, and that would be the time to go ahead and shoot them off. We'll get to them the best we can. If you're watching on Twitch or Breakers, or I think there's one other place that we're streaming on right now, hop on over to youtube.com, search for Reality Brief, and drop your questions in there. We're not going to open up the phones tonight because I am lazy and I feel like setting all that crap up because it was a lot of work. And
there's if we accept another call, not that I really anticipate another one to come in, but if another call does come in, I'm worried that it might knock our guest off, and we just can't have that. So.
Okay, so was it below glass, or was the atmosphere breathable?
There was definitely glass between me and the outside. I don't think there was any atmosphere outside at all.
So you weren't in the gas giant, though, right? You were just
No. I was on something orbiting it, either an asteroid or a moon, but there was no atmosphere.
No atmosphere on the moon?
Right.
I thought you said it was a gas giant.
No, there's a gas giant that I'm orbiting.
I think that's right.
There's either an asteroid or a moon that the colony's on that's orbiting the gas giant.
I think he might have been asking if the atmosphere on the gas giant was breathable. I don't know why.
Well, it's a gas giant. I wouldn't expect so.
I can answer that. No. If it's a gas giant, it's mostly hydrogen and helium.
I don't know. I can't understand people.
I would not expect so.
Okay. So, that's one. What else do you got? Anything else besides the gas giant and the hole getting blown inside of the ship?
Well, I mean,
He said he was talking about on the colony. Was it? I think we're losing him.
I remember first. I have a couple of memories of that colony. The first memory I had of it was walking down this massive glassed corridor between the space dock and the colony itself. I remember to my left was the actual gas giant. As I'm walking towards the colony, I couldn't see the entire gas giant. It was kind of partially hidden by the horizon of whatever it was the colony's on. I remember waiting there for a little while. I was waiting for someone, and this man walks up and introduces himself, and then tells me to follow him, and then the memory jumps to him not being there anymore, and I'm walking through an apartment door, and I think I'm being introduced to this apartment for the first time. In this particular memory, I remember looking around the apartment, and then suddenly I go and sit on the sofa, and I remember sitting there for a while, not knowing what to do with myself. I remember thinking and feeling I've never experienced this level of freedom before. I
Right.
don't know what to do. And then I sat there for a while until I finally chose and decided to get up and go explore the colony. I remember walking out the door, and then I have a brief memory of a it was almost like a shop. It was a small shop where I just walked up to, and there was a counter, and there was this weird thing on the counter that I put my hand on, and suddenly I could speak with the person on the other side of the counter.
Well, before we get too deeper into the colony part, just one point from the chat, and they were saying if you ever get a regression done, make sure you record it independently. Bring a tape recorder yourself.
Right.
Just a bit of advice from the chat there. Now, this room, your first apartment, can you describe this to me? Like, what did it look like? Like
Yeah.
materials, colors, that kind of thing.
It didn't seem exotic or futuristic. It seemed like something out of normal Earth. But the sofa was recessed into the floor. Um, the seating of the sofa was level with the floor, the rest of the floor. So you stepped down. It was a corner sofa, and there was this one area where you stepped down. Let me just give you the whole layout. Walking down a hall, there's two doors. Walk down the hall a little further, and there's this big open area. To the left is some sort of food preparation area. To my right is a dining table. Further down is the sofa. Just behind that is this big wall, and all it is a window. And I can actually see the big dome and the gas giant beyond that. I To the left, facing the opposite, the other wall, is the wall turns into a big TV, and then behind that part of the sofa that's facing the TV is another door, which I I just get the impression that that's a bedroom. I don't have no memory of going in there.
So I guess the pressing question is, are commercials just as bad on the asteroid colony as they are?
I don't know.
So
I don't have any memory of using the TV. I just know it is.
no memories of anything coming on over there. What about like a communication system?
Eat recycled food. It's okay for the environment. It's good for
I
the environment and okay for you.
I assume so, but I don't have any memories of using it.
Okay.
So I just know it's there.
Now, well, hopefully when you'll start to get a little bit more of that back. So nothing, no memories about currency or anything like that, or trampling around. I guess you were about to get into exploring the colony. Did you want to continue with that a little bit?
That's about the only memory I have of exploring the colony.
Okay. So,
Um,
what? Cool. Can you give me an idea of what the colony layout was kind of like, or like what was there, or?
all I remember is the apartment. I remember the walkway between the space dock and the colony, and I remember that just that one section of that shopping area of walking up to that counter.
So, now the couch that's recessed in the floor. What color was that? What kind of material was it? Does it seem like just regular fabrics, or?
Everything was kind of bland, different shades of grays and whites. Maybe some tans in there.
Interesting. I mean, it seems to match a lot of descriptions of what we hear about colonies on Mars,
Mhm.
and you know, and also in other ships, everything's kind of just like bland, like not flashy looking at all. And okay, so got that. I'm trying to see if I think I lost my notes from when we talked. I know there was some other stuff that we needed to touch on. Can you think of anything off the top of your head?
Um,
Any more memories of serving in the Nacht Waffen?
Do you have any memories of the regeneration tanks, like when you're critically injured and they stuff you in one of
no,
the tanks
no.
to grow back?
I remember going into. I remember being my head being submerged into a vat of it was blue liquid, but I don't remember regeneration tanks.
Okay, so
Oh, I also remember yellow liquid. I remember two different liquids I'm being submerged into. It's different memories each time. One's a blue liquid and another one's a yellow liquid.
See, I've heard about the blue liquid before from other folks. So, and it's really interesting to see how, with everyone's accounts, the stuff that matches up
yeah, there's a
starts
lot
to
of
paint a really clear picture.
there's actually a lot of different color. Like you said, I'm not sure if I ever remember hearing yellow, but I could have, because I've heard a lot of different colors of different types of liquids that do different things. Speaking of which, assuming you're an officer, because you heard the lieutenant thing and you're piloting the ship. From what we understand about officers in the in that faction is they participate in a ceremony involving the black goo. Now, have you had any
I'm
recalls about this
told
yet?
this. I have no memories of that at this time.
Okay. Another question from the chat room: any cloning or cloning center recalls?
No. Wait, I do remember this weird table um, that nobody's been able to describe me what it is, what it does, or why. Um, I'm laying on a table. There's this weird rubbery film that comes over me and literally suctions me to the table. And there's this gray that walks over that cuts a hole out of my right eye. Not my eye itself, just the plastic. I mean the rubbery film. And all of a sudden I see through my right eye these two needles coming off this object, and they're coming at me from the ceiling, and one goes through my eye, and the other one goes right through my forehead, brow area right here,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, I start moving up the device. My vision is everything. I'm moving. My consciousness or whatever is moving up the device, and once I hit the ceiling, I black out.
It's interesting because it's kind of reminiscent. What was that guy's name? Travis Walton, I think. The Fire in the Sky movie.
That memory reminded me of that movie too.
Yeah, that was based on his recounting of that. So
The forester guy,
I think
the
his name was Travis Walton.
lumberjack.
Yeah, I think his name was Travis Walton, but I may be
Yeah.
mistaken about that. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
I've sent him a friend's request. He accepted it, but I haven't had any communication with him yet.
Well, I hope you do, man. Maybe you guys can help each other out a little bit with that. Because who knows? Maybe he went through something similar like you did, but he just doesn't have the recall of it. And all
What I understand from stories of listening to him and do interviews is that what was in the movie was nothing like what his actual story was.
Okay, fair enough. I know I did a little bit of digging on it a while ago, but not that much. So, but yeah, I mean, either way, that I mean, I guess that's always a possibility that the sheet thing is a bleed over memory from watching the movie too. I mean, because like your memories are
Possible, I
funny,
don't know.
and that's something you'll work out over time.
No one's been able to tell me what this is, why it is, or anything like that yet. So it's possible.
Comment from the chat. I think that's when they put you in a soul holding cell, SOL. I'm not really sure if that's what he meant or what that means. But that's the comment from the chat. So any more questions from Matt? Go ahead and dump them in there. We got about 10 minutes or so left. So
Are there any specific pieces of technology that you remember, like weapons, or besides the spacesuits and all the mind wipes?
I don't remember any spacesuits. I've only just recently had a memory of the smart glass pad. Before that, everybody's talking about this smart glass pad, and I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't remember this thing.
The
And
first
then, like a month ago, I had one memory of walking down the corridor holding that smart glass pad. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's what that looks like.
You'll probably be
he
able to
said,
order those things off Amazon in like 5
yeah.
years.
Probably.
And to clarify, he meant the soul, like SOUL, soul holding cell.
Yeah,
What I
I
sent
know
you.
what he meant. I've talked with Penny about the holding tank for for souls, for your consciousness. And so, yeah, I know what he was talking about.
Man, I had something and I lost it. Jeez, man. Too many things at once going on for me
Mm.
right now.
Let's see. Do you besides you mentioned the Greys and the Mantids and the Dracos, but do you remember any other run-ins with any other maybe more exotic species of extraterrestrials? You know,
Um,
besides the normal Nordics and Greys and Dracos. Oh my!
I actually don't have any memories of the Nordics or anything like that. And if I did, I wouldn't know it.
It's hard
Um,
to tell them apart from normal
it's hard to
humans.
tell them apart from Germans and
Hmm.
other normal humans, especially if they're all wearing the same clothing.
Right. I
So I honestly don't know if I've met them or not. I do know that I've met a couple of different kinds of Draco, um, mantids, grays, at least two different kinds of grays, um, the tall ones and the short ones. Um,
The sentient ones and the
Well, what
drony
was your
ones.
experience with the tall ones?
I just remember being in a room, sitting in a chair, and them walking up to me. I've also seen them in my house,
Hmm.
just observing me.
Interesting.
I don't ever let them know, indicate that I see them, but then when I'm thinking about them, they suddenly know, oh, he can see us.
They know you know.
They know I know. They know I can see them.
Now, how about the mantids?
I think they're astral projecting into my house.
Right.
And I see all that.
Hmm. And you know the thing about that too is if something is astrally projecting, what you see may not even be what they really look like. They could pretty much make
Exactly.
themselves look like whatever they want.
That's true.
Now with the mantids, and I know we had the one where you think it might be a possibility that one grabbed you. It was dark though, and you couldn't really tell. Did you have any other recall of being around mantid beings?
I've had several. I've also had them in my house.
Okay, I think we got time. You can go ahead if you want to share some of those stories.
There was this one where I was laying on a table, metal table. There was these four grays standing around me, and suddenly this egg-shaped door opens up, and it's like the egg shape on its side. It opens up, and this mantid walks through. And as soon as he walks through, I don't know if it was a he or her. As soon as it walks through, the four grays, they don't turn or anything. They just step back and stand there, like waiting for orders, type of thing.
Hmm.
Almost like just like drones. They don't turn. They don't interact. They just step back and stand there in unison. Um, and so the mantid looks at this wall to his left, my right, and suddenly the wall turns into a screen. Just one part of the wall, because the rest of the wall is cabinets and a table. It's like all metal built into the wall, but there's this one part of the wall it's like a screen, and there's a white Draco with red eyes that shows up on the screen,
Hmm.
and I don't hear anything from either of them. But briefly, periodically they will turn and both of them will turn and look at me and then turn and look at each other. So I presume there's some sort of conversation going on about me. I don't know.
Telepathically.
Yeah.
I wonder if anybody else can confirm that listening right now. Telepathic communication via, radio or whatever it is that they're using.
Between someone, two people on at far distances on TV screens.
What was it? Damn, man, I
Do
lost
you
it.
remember seeing any technology or any anything that these extraterrestrials or Nacht Waffen members had at their disposal to increase their ability to remote view or manipulate things telekinetically from a distance.
I have no memories at this time of that. In the training, stuff was done to us that I can't remember what exactly was done to us. There was chemical things, there was technological things having to do with our energy fields. There was dietary things. There was things done straight up to our DNA. Just different kinds of things done to enhance us.
We got one question coming from the chat. Do you have ongoing contact with beings astrally projecting? Like, is it still happening to this day?
Astrally projecting,
Yeah, like
yes. Yes. In my house
So, like, when was the last time that happened?
a few weeks ago. I was walking into the kitchen and there's two tall grays, just a little bit taller than me, not by much. Um, I came up to maybe their nose and I walked past them and I didn't let them indicate I saw them, but then I motioned, I looked right at them and he goes, "Oh crap, he can see us." And they wouldn't leave. They refused to leave. I kept telling them, "Get out of my house." They refused to leave. They just stood there and observed.
Got caught with the hand in the cookie jar, so to speak.
Every time.
Well,
I
guess
see
it
it.
doesn't
I see
seem
them every time.
It doesn't seem to phase them. I guess they keep coming.
Do you recall anything about nanites or the use of nanotechnology?
No, I don't have any memories yet. I'm still recalling a lot. I still only have a few memories. So I've still got a long way to go.
Right. And for you guys listening, Matt will be on the 12-hour broadcast somewhere in there. I'm still working on the schedule for that, so hopefully I'll have an announcement for you guys by the end of the week about who exactly is going to be on and when. And it's looking like it's going to be longer than 12 hours, so woo-wee! Can't wait for that.
You ready, Don? We're going to do a 24-hour broadcast.
Man. Look, we actually did that back when we were on that radio station that I was telling you about.
Radio Free Radio?
Radio Free Radio. They used to do, that's kind of where we got the idea for the 12-hour thing, but we were like, no way in hell we're doing 24 hours. They used to do 24 hours, as a fundraiser type thing. And I sat in on one. Oh my God, by the end of the 24 hours, the people that had been there the whole time were just so adamant. Like, the conversations that were going on were just ridiculous. But, that station was perfect for that because we were the only show that was kind of like that on that station. Everybody else, there was like sports shows and comedy shows,
wrestling,
and pop culture, that kind of stuff. And we were the crazy people that everybody like stayed away from.
Yeah, we were the coast to coast
like,
crowd.
Well, it's those guys again. Everybody duck out. But so it worked out well. But if we tried some shit like that, it would be a total train wreck, man. We'd be trying to have a conversation with you, just completely out of it, like But we did 12 years. We
57 reptile.
We did 12 years last year, or 12 hours last year, and I'm pretty sure.
Did 12 years last year, huh?
I did 12 years last week.
For every hour we broadcast, we're abducted for a year of secret space program service.
It was 12 or 25, I don't know. But anyway, we did 12 hours last year, and it worked out pretty well. So I think we can handle 14 this year. Plus, we have some co-hosts coming in that's going to be able to give us a break. We didn't have any breaks last year. Dude, it was insane. But that's coming up, guys, on the menu next month, December 15th. The date is solid. Lineup is not. Matt will be on along with some other people. Some people you may know, some people you may not know. You're just going to have to wait until the weekend or so to find out exactly who.
And it'll be a chance for all of us to learn and grow and experience new things.
So, that being said, we're coming up on the end here. So, guys, thanks for watching. And Matt, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having the courage to come forward with all this because, every time somebody who's been through this comes on the air and shares their story,
it makes it a little bit easier for somebody else to do that.
Well, and
That's the reason I started coming forward,
Mhm.
because I myself have been tired of holding back and keeping quiet around the people who thought I thought cared about me, and I just got tired of all the fakeness.
And I just want to say, if you're out there and you're experiencing something like this and you feel like you're going crazy and you don't know what to do, there's one place that you can go on Facebook. You can search out. It's the Secret Space Program group that has a whole bunch of people in there, and there's a ton of vets in there who are super helpful for other people trying, going through the same thing. And reach out to them, and someone there will try and help you, no question. They're good people in there. So if you're struggling with this and you don't know what to do, reach out to some people. There's a few different places. There's the spaceportals.net that's up. It's the person who curates it has been having some medical issues, so it's not really been. There's some stuff that's breaking, but most everything still works. So you can definitely get help there. Spaceportals.net. Hopefully that'll be completely fixed soon. Like I said, reach out on Facebook. You can even contact us. We're not gonna help you. I don't know what the fuck to tell you, but I could put you in touch with someone who may be able to help you. So
What I've come to realize is most people just want to be listened to.
mhm.
I try to help who I can when and where I can. When when this all started coming forward and I started accepting that this was going on to me, I just needed somebody that to believe me, to listen to me, and that's mostly what people just need. They just need somebody to believe in them,
And
that
tell
they're
them they're
not
not crazy.
crazy, that this is really going on, and just to help them through it just by listening.
So, yep, like I said, if you're struggling with this and it's a real thing, there's a lot of people struggling with it and you don't quite know what to do. There's people out there. You guys reach out. Don't let it can become overwhelming. Some people, and then there's programming triggers. There's suicide bombs packed in there, all kinds of stuff. So be careful.
There really is.
And be careful when you're probing yourself. Be careful. Keep that kind of stuff in mind. Try to reach out to somebody. And like I said, thanks guys for watching, and we will see you guys next week back on Reality Brief. We've got who's coming on? Joel. Shoot, I got a bad memory. Sorry, you know his last name. What's his last name? It's like something with an L, I think.
It's like this man has a permanent
Anyway.
mind wipe prime.
I've been spaghetti-fied too many times. So he was a general in Darkfleet, Nacht Waffen. German use loot.
Whoa, that's heavy stuff.
And serving directly under a white draconian alpha drag. So that
I
ought
know
to be
who you're
pretty
talking
interesting.
about.
That ought to be pretty interesting. He'll be up next week, and then the following week after that, we've got Eric Rains on. He's an energy worker. Also, someone who's in the healing, helping out SSP vets. Someone, if you're having problems, is someone to get in contact with. Again, thank you guys. See you next week.